Justin from New England Music Blog. I'm here with Rich Ward, the Duke from Fozzy.
Thanks for taking the time to speak with me today.
Yeah, no problem. So, how's the tour going?
Awesome. It's been really good.
So you guys just put out your 6th album.
Yeah, it's hard to believe.
Yeah, it's what was the writing process like on the album?
For the last few records, it's been the same. It's Jericho sends stacks of lyrics towards me, and just says, "Hey, work with the ones that really resonate with you." And so I start working with those first, and I knew right away when I saw the lyrics to "Do You Want to Start a War?" I saw the lyrics for "One Crazed Anarchist." It's like, okay, we're starting off good, and because I'm from the school of I love aggressive lyrics because it's much easier for me to connect musically with those topics. Even though relationship lyrics can be fun, sometimes they're hard when I'm trying to connect with emotions that aren't mine. Do you know what I'm saying? Like some relationship lyrics that Chris is deriving from his own experiences, and then I'm trying to capture the essence of that with music and melody. But it's always a challenge, and I love that. Working with other writers is where you get you get chemistry from. If it's just one guy writing every record, then you don't necessarily have a band. You've got a solo project, right?
Exactly.
So yeah. And then I write the demo. I write and record the demos. I send them all to Chris and let him hear, where I am with the songs, and he will say, "Hey, I really love this. What if you change this?" And there's a little bit of a kind of a tennis thing we do. We just kind of bat ideas back and forth. Give the final approved demo recordings, and that's with me singing the parts. So, and I'm lucky. I've taken most of everything I've made in the music and kind of in my career playing music, and have invested into a home studio so that I can make pretty much album quality recordings in my house. And then the guys get all the demos, and they then translate them in their own ways. There's no rule that Frank has to play the drum parts the way that I wrote them. He can play them the way he wants to. And that's when the demos that start off as Chris and Rich's babies turn into a Fozzy record, is when the guys then take them and make them their own. And we turn them into a Fozzy record.
Excellent. How have the crowds been responding to the new material?
I think much better than... Well, I would say that I was really confident that people were going to like the new record, because I'm a music fan, and I was really excited early on about the songs, and then once I got the final mixes finished, I knew the album sounded great. I knew the songs were going to go over great live. I could just picture it in my mind, and my expectations were met because people were really liking them, and actually more so than the older material. We actually had this discussion on the bus the other night about how we're going to start playing more of the new material in our set because it's really going over better.
That's cool. You guys played the main stage at Download this summer.
Yeah.
How was that? What was that like?
Yeah, it's like playing in the Super Bowl, right? I mean, although there's like 8 bands that play on the main stage during the day, so there's like 8 teams in the Super Bowl, but still, we were one of them. It was great. And I have to say, as a kid growing up, when you see Monsters of Rock, Castle Donington Festival, AC/DC, Van Halen, Ozzy, Metallica, it's like, and then one day, fast forward 20 some odd years, and I'm playing it, and it's crazy, right?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That must have been a blast.
Yeah.
I'm a big listener of Chris's podcast, Talk is Jericho.
Me too.
And I feel like when new music gets released these days, listen to this on YouTube. You play the song once, and then you kind of forget about it. And maybe, depending on what you listen to, you might hear it on the radio, you might not. And I feel like a lot of new music doesn't get a chance because people listen to it once. Whereas when you bought a CD, you were listening to that CD over and over. So with Chris putting songs on the podcast, and every week here's this song again, or here's this new song, Do you think that that's made a big impact on sort of the response, people getting to hear these songs repeatedly before the album came out?
I could only imagine that, yes, that it helps. I mean, he has a huge listenership on those podcasts, and I mean, he's getting somewhere between 150 and 500,000 downloads per podcast.
Right.
And I know people can scan around. They don't, if they want to scan past it just straight to the interviews, they can if they want. But let's just assume that 50,000 people every week hear a new song.
Right.
I mean, it's great exposure, and with less and less people listening to radio, traditional FM radio, there's just, you know, things like podcasts and YouTube or in Pandora. These are places where people go to find their music, and it's an important thing. And you know, there's so many bands, I hear them talking about how the internet's and downloading's ruining the music business, but these same bands use the internet to promote their albums for free.
Right.
You know, it's like in the old days we used to have to spend $15,000 to buy a full page ad, you know, in a magazine. Right. And now we just put, you know, we put free content up. You know, you get a domain name and you so there's always going to be a dark side to any technology.
Right.
I remember when I was a kid and, you know, everyone was taping their albums. You know what I mean? It's like, so someone would buy like the new Metallica record, and then my neighbor would make me a cassette copy, which is the same thing as illegal downloading. It's just a much more crude technology. And it doesn't spread as fast, obviously, when you're doing tape. But tape trading's always been a big thing, and so is bootleg concerts. And you know, at some point, it doesn't do any good to sit around and sport bitch and moan about the way things are. Only thing you can do is try to figure out new ways to earn the respect of your fan base. Right. And put on a great show, make great albums, be nice to your fans. They're like the ABCs of being in, you know, like in the music business. Right. You know, have a good relationship with your road crew and your record company, you know, promotion people, and try not to be an asshole. You know, I mean, you think about like all of the people whose music careers have taken a dive, and most of the time it's just because people are just not pleasant people to be around. And if we can all just try to find a place, hey, life is hard. My father owns a travel agency, and once the internet happened, all of a sudden no one came to him to buy airline tickets, because you could just go and buy straight from Delta or US Air or American. And he was like, wow, this, you know, my business is, you know, is dropped off. But he found a new way by figuring out a way to cater towards people who want to do specialty trips, to go play golf in Ireland. And smart people will just find a way. And that's just, and it's again, it's those people who sit around and wring their hands about how terrible things are. It's the same people who said, oh, George Bush is terrible and now Obama's terrible. And it's like, man, nothing is going to be perfect. We just have to learn how to act and react in an imperfect world. I play guitar, and people give me money to play guitar. How stupid is that? Like, to think that I made it into my mid-40s. I'm 45 years old. And I started playing in Stuck Mojo when I was 19. And through that entire process, I've been a professional musician making albums. And it's a privilege. And sometimes it's tough. There's been years where I had to sell a bunch of equipment to try to get through dry spells. When 9/11 happened, everything stopped. You know, when the recession happened in 2005, 6, 7, 8, that whole area, things started to slow down. The record industry has recessed as album sales have gone down, and they've had to try to figure out new ways. And you just work, man. And you just thank God that every day that you get up, that you're still doing it. And I never cared about the cars and the swimming pool and the girls. I cared about a guitar and a band, and let's do this. Let's make good music, and let's do what we stood in the mirror with our first guitar, like listening to Iron Maiden records and Priest records and Ozzy records, and said, yeah, this is what I want to do. This is so super cool. And I used to take my guitar to school with me and to movie theaters, and I just always played all day long, and I'm blessed to be doing it. So, yeah. So I don't remember what your question is, but ultimately, when it comes down to it, life is just a journey, man, and and the tough people will be the ones that end up smiling at the end, and they'll be the roads isn't littered with whiners, you know.
Exactly. You mentioned a couple of classic bands there, Priest and Maiden.
Yeah.
Some of your big guitar player influences. Who were they?
I mean, I grew up with Randy Rhoads, the Ozzy guys.
Right.
Like, I loved Randy Rhoads, and I loved Jakey Lee, and then freaking when Zach came out, changed my life.
Right.
I mean, he literally changed everything. I mean, of course, before him, Eddie Van Halen changed everything. But I really believe that if it wasn't for Zach Wilde and Dimebag, like, there was like a weird jump ahead, right, in the evolution of guitar playing. Like, the heaviness and just the technique was just unique and different. And as far as modern guys are concerned, when I say modern, within the last 20-some years, I mean, those guys, I think, were the ones who made a really big difference. And then, I love Joe Bonamassa. I think he's probably the best guitar player in the world right now. And amazing chops, cool as can be. People say he's a jerk. I don't care. Who cares, man? I don't care. I heard Eddie Van Halen's a jerk. I don't care. Like, I don't want to go to dinner with him.
Right.
Just make records. You know what I mean? People get all caught up. Gene Simmons, he's a jerk. What difference does it make? Does he make music that you like or not? If he makes music that you hate, don't buy it. If he makes music you like, get it. Exactly. I don't like a lot of Hollywood actors and actresses, but if they make a good movie, I'll pay $10 to go see it.
Right.
And I think that's another dark side of the internet, is getting caught up in the cult of personality, right? Instead of just like Sean Penn makes a good movie, talks a lot of trash, who cares? And but another one of my guitar heroes that I love, who I've heard like sketchy things about, has been Neil Schon from Journey.
Right.
Like, guy's phrasing, John Sykes, Whitesnake, Blue Murder, love him. I'm like in love with like rock star guitar players. Right. Joe Perry. Like, I love guys that can play, that look the part, and that I believe it.
Right.
I don't necessarily, I'm not into the speedy guitar player with no personality. Yeah. I don't know that I believe it. You know what I mean? Like, just because it's the same thing. Just because you can type fast doesn't mean that I want to read what you've typed.
Right.
Sometimes it is all about the words and all about the notes, and not necessarily about the speed or the technique. It then becomes about, this is music, and it's supposed to either connect or not connect. And that's why I'm really into Bonamassa, because, like I said, what he plays, I'm like, I believe it. I know he's the real deal.
Yeah, that Black Country Communion.
Oh, it crushed me.
Yeah.
It crushed me. Because I'm a big Glenn Hughes fan, too. And then we put Jason Bonham on drums and Sherenian on keyboards, and you just like super rock star band. Like, every dude's total rock star. And they were all kind of different, right? That's like the modern Village People. Like, I like it. Like, he's the Indian, he's a construction worker. Like, I like bands when people are kind of different. Right. Not when everybody wears the same outfit and everyone could be like interchangeable. I like Van Halen. David Lee Roth, he's got his thing. Eddie's got his. Michael Anthony, Alex, Pantera, perfect example. And Phil, very different from the rest of the guys. But they all had their own kind of personas, but came together and made a Zeppelin. You know, those are the kinds of bands that I'm really into, so yeah.
Right. So you guys have a pretty busy tour booked.
Yeah.
You know, not a lot of downtime. You guys are doing this with Theory of a Dead Man.
Yeah.
You got a lot of headlining dates sort of in between. But when you guys do have a day off, what do you do with one of your days off on tour?
Really doesn't look too much different than a show day. Yeah. Except for, instead of sound check, and then the show, we'll do a dinner and a movie. Like, when I'm at home, I don't go to the movies a lot. It's just one of those things that, for whatever reason, we're kind of, my wife and I are Netflix people, so we binge watch like shows, like TV dramas, Breaking Bad or
Right.
Dexter or whatever. And so when I'm on tour, it's nice to be able to go to a weekday. Because usually your day also offer like on Mondays or Tuesdays or like show days that aren't as strong.
Right.
So on a Monday night, there's nobody at the movies.
Right.
So you go to a 9:30 movie and I can catch up on stuff. But and then sometimes we sit on the bus and write. Somebody may have a cool riff and we just want to start recording and putting together ideas. But in general, the day looks the same. You get up, everybody goes to the gym or works out, does DDP yoga or something, and then you play a little guitar and you get some food. And it's being on tour. It's good to be in a rut, in a schedule.
Right.
Just like any other job, it's nice to have patterns. Because if you just wake up every day and say, oh, I don't know what to do, or maybe I'm just going to sleep in today, you'll end up blowing the entire day. And it's, when I was 10, you'd lay in the park for 3 hours just looking up at the sky, like freaking, this is the life, man. And then you kick soccer ball, and then you go hang out with some friends and ride skateboards. And now you realize it's like, in 3 hours, I could be like, I could have really worked on something new on guitar. I could write a new riff. I could do something, be productive. And especially for Chris and I, who have multiple band projects and podcasts, and he, writes books and stuff. If you want to try to be prolific in what you do, it's best not to waste a day.
Right. Exactly. So I've been a fan of Fozzy since the Happenstance album. And To Kill a Stranger still comes on my iPod regularly.
Right on.
Back then, you guys did a lot of great covers.
Thank you.
Balls to the Walls was one of my favorite.
Mine too.
The Prisoner just came on my iPod and ran it
Nice.
yesterday. That was great. And it's understandable, that sort of your sounds changed, and you became all original since then, which is great. But if there was one band that you never got a chance to cover, if you were to go back and say, we want to put one more song on Fozzy or on Happenstance,
Oh yeah.
what band do you think you would cover?
Well, we never did a Van Halen cover, and that would have been cool because Jericho's personality has a kinship with Diamond Dave. You know what I mean? There's that pomp and circumstance that they both share, and there's that personality. So it probably would have been cool to do something, one of the earlier ones, like Somebody Get Me a Doctor, or Atomic Punk, or something cool off of the first 2 or 3 records, or even Fair Warning. You could do Mean Street or Unchained would have been great.
Right.
But ultimately we were of a different mindset at that point because I had Stuck Mojo was my band.
Right.
I was touring and making records, and Chris was a full-time wrestler, and Fozzy was a side project. We played less than 10 shows a year, and the only reason we made a record was because someone gave us a lot of money to. Like we really was just like dudes who enjoyed hanging out together and going and playing some shows together and playing some cover songs that we grew up loving. It was fun, and it was never a plan for this to be a serious band. There was never we never had this meeting where we sat down and had a band meeting. What we should do? It's like, no, it's just everything happened organically and unfolded. And Stuck Mojo became a back burner to me because the chemistry in that band was falling apart.
Right.
And my friendship with Chris was flourishing, and we had fun. And the first thing you want to do is be in a band with guys that can play. The second thing is you want to be in a band with guys that you respect and that you enjoy being around. And in Stuck Mojo, we had the play. We just started not liking each other, and that just happens. You stick guys in a van or a motorhome or a bus for 300 days of the year, and you couldn't do that with your girlfriend or your wife, or or your much less 4 girlfriends. It's like, it's tough. It's easier as you get older because you learn how to, you're wiser in the way that you just let some stuff go.
Right.
Because there are things that I do that drives Chris crazy, like he would like to strangle me, and vice versa. And you just learn that some of it's just not worth arguing about because we're all imperfect. And the idea is when you're in a band is to you know, find the things that are 80% that you can agree on, and the 20% you disagree on, you just let it go.
Right.
Why argue about it, right? That's why so many marriages fail when people are young, because they're too busy arguing about the 20% they disagree about. They forgot that the 80% that brought them together, just focus on that.
Right.
And I think that's kind of been the success of Fozzy, is that we've kind of grown slowly. There wasn't a period where we were just all of a sudden in a band together 300 days of the year. It was like every year we're touring more and more.
Right.
And so our relationship as friends and as bandmates and as musicians have matured as the intensity of the time that we spend together has grown. So it really has helped us quite a bit.
Right. So what's next for you guys? You know, you got this tour. What's 2015 hold for you?
We're going to Europe in March. We were trying on this tour to be, for this album cycle, to be very intentional about the touring.
Right.
Instead of like, let's throw together 6 weeks here and let's like really focus in on our past history of where we do well, where our fan base, where we're selling a lot of records, and then also not just play there, but places where we need to play, places we haven't been before, and really try to target that.
Right.
And we've got new agents, new booking agents, and so we've got a new focus and a new energy in that side of things. So there will be a lot of touring, but I think it won't be more touring, it'll just be better quality touring. We'll be playing bigger venues,
Right.
we'll be touring with bigger bands, whether we're headlining or whether we're opening, finding packages that work together.
Right.
In November, December, we're touring with Texas Hippie Coalition. We're the headliner, but it's going to feel like a co-headline because those guys are a great band,
Right.
and we want to give them a full set. And we're playing some shows in Texas, and we the name of the band is Texas Hippie Coalition. We're not going on after them. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's just. In '95 we were on tour with my first tour, national tour, opening for a big band. Stuck Mojo was opening for Machine Head,
Okay.
and Machine Head hadn't really played in the Southeast, and Stuck Mojo was like legitimate huge headliners in the Southeast, and we played a few shows where a lot of people left after we went off.
Right.
And I learned early that it's like, why would you do that? I want to play in front of their fans.
Right.
So you got to learn that sometimes ego doesn't matter in this business,
Right.
and you just do what's best for your fans. You do what's best for potential new people to see you.
Right.
And so that's kind of our motto moving forward is smart touring. And I mean, listen, I'm not saying this to toot my own horn because it's not me. We're a really good live band. A lot of that is because Jericho is an amazing frontman. And that's the key. It's like if your quarterback is great,
Right.
it doesn't mean you could have a killer quarterback and the rest of your team sucks and you will not win games.
Right.
But the quarterback's the foundation, and he's great, and he knows how to deal with large audiences and small audiences alike. And the band is I mean, there are very few bands that are as good as we are at what we do because we know who we are.
Right.
We're not trying to be something that we're not, and that's the important thing about being a band is being able to recognize that what you do best and do that.
Right.
There's so many bands that are like, man, I want to do this, and I was like, well, why don't you just be you? Like, who are you as an artist? Who are you as a guitar player? Who are you as a drummer? What are you best at? What defines you when people bob their head? What is it that you're doing?
Right.
You know, let's work on that and how that works together, because a team is not because you're good and I'm good means that we're great together.
Right.
It means just like a team, you play your position, you do your thing. Like, not everyone can play first base, you know? And I think that's another thing. As you grow older as a band, you realize that chemistry is everything in a band, and you learn how to play off of each other and learn how to give and take. And I mean, we're lucky to have the guys that we have in the band, and Frank and Jeff and Billy, and Chris and I have been in the band together for the longest with Frank.
Right.
And Billy's been in the band for a long time, and now we're lucky to have Jeff.
Excellent. Hey, well, Rich, it's been great talking to you.
Listen, it's an honor. Thank you. Thank you for taking the time with me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, looking forward to the show tonight.
Yes, I'll be on the right-hand side, so that's where the rock will be happening. There'll be many dance moves, fancy and some unfancy.
Alrighty, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks to your fans who watch. Thank you. Appreciate it.